10 minutes after 7. Thanks so much for staying with us here nationwide at 5. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Tyrone Reed.
Well, the threat of the coronavirus, COVID-19, is forcing institutions of learning all over the world, and in particular the developing world, to switch to online classes as a result of the growing concerns about the virus and calls to contain it. Most institutions, including universities, are shutting down in-person classes or face-to-face teaching.
Well, listeners, the universities and other educational institutions are now utilizing technology in their distance teaching methods. One such institution is the University of the West Indies, the UWI. The UWI Open Campus is making a concerted effort to push online teaching and learning in the midst of the crisis caused by COVID-19.
Joining us now, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of the West Indies Open Campus, Dr. Longsworth. Good evening, Dr. Longsworth.
Good evening, Dr. Longsworth.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good to hear you sounding hale and hearty.
Yes, and I hope you are well.
Thank you,
too.
and likewise, indeed.
Yes, I'm one of the insiders.
All right. So tell us, Dr. Longsworth, tell us what the university is doing to make this period less stressful for students and, to switch to online platforms.
Sure. Well, let me start with just a little bit of history to explain how much ahead of the curve the University of the West Indies is in this area. Because I'm sure that you will remember way back when, in the 1980s, Professor Gerald Layler was the pioneer for the UWI distance teaching experiment.
Yes.
And at that time, we utilized telephone lines to reach throughout the region and to actually deliver degree programs that way. Of course, since then, the technology has evolved and the university has evolved with it. And in 2008, we formed the Open Campus, and our purpose was to really push the envelope in the area of online and flexible learning. Since 2008, we have been building and developing a skill set within the University of the West Indies that is really on, I think, the cutting edge of distance learning and utilizing online technology. And so we, in the Open Campus, we have been teaching online for over 10 years. And we currently have over 7,000 students each year, and that number is growing, who are studying with the UE Open Campus, doing UE degrees totally online, from associate degrees right up now to PhDs. And so we have always been converted to the need to have a large amount of online and technology imbued into the curriculum. And a lot of our programs actually teach teachers how to do that. So
this is not new for you then? This is part of your rhythm?
So this is part of our rhythm, indeed. Our students who study online have not had any interruption in classes.
Oh.
Of course, we are very worried about them because they belong to, a lot of them are working. A lot of our students are working adults, and so they themselves are under stress. But in terms of their education, it has been without a glitch. We've had no interruption in their online classes. What we are working on with them is, of course, how we're going to do exams, because we still have a component that is face-to-face for many of our courses.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the rest of the UWI, we are very close to coming up with a solution for that by the end of this week. So what has happened then is that with the success that we've had, the other campuses, even though they were 70% primarily face-to-face, they have also been, and we've been working with them to develop those core skills within faculty. So many of the teachers, the lecturers at the UWI, Mona, Cave Hill, and St. Augustine are already familiar with online technology, and many of them use it as part of their courses. but there are also many who have not. And so in this period, what has happened over the last 3 weeks, Cliff and Tyrone, it really has been amazing, because the ability for the university to really step up, and we have helped the Open Campus with our skill set. We've helped to train over 600 lecturers across the region at UWI in order to ensure that they're able to move to an online delivery format in the next couple of weeks.
Because I gather one of the lessons we must learn from the COVID-19 pandemic is that this online teaching must become a part of the new normal going forward. So, for example, those courses that you just mentioned, where 70% of the teaching and learning is done person to person in terms of in a lecture room, those classes, now you're saying the university will be looking to see how best it can get all of its lecturers to a place where if something like this happens again, everyone is willing to ready to go from day one online. Just switch the classes to online, so we won't necessarily need to skip a beat. Is that what the university has in mind?
Yes, and in fact, it's not a result of COVID. It is a part of the strategic plan that we have been working on since 2017. What COVID has done is to accelerate that, because one of the key initiatives of our strategic plan is really to take the UWI online globally. And we had just started pushing in that area when COVID came on stream. So mindset and readiness were already moving in that direction, and this has just accelerated it. So I see that after the crisis is over, the university will definitely become what I call a multi-mode delivery university. And we will be ahead of most of the elite universities in the world, because, the Oxfords and the Cambridges and the Yales and so on, they are struggling to get all of their courses online as well. And we have deliberately set out on a path, because we're global people in the Caribbean, and we want to reach all of our people wherever they are.
So
Yes,
Dr. Longsworth, help us to understand is it the full range of courses you offer at the UWI online, or there are some courses that you don't because of the content and the challenge of the technology? Tell me, what is it?
Indeed. So what the Open Campus has focused on over the last few years has been the courses that are perhaps that lend themselves easiest to online learning. So those would be in the social sciences, the humanities, education. We have started expanding into things like sports, kinetics, coaching, and other areas of sports medicine. As well as recently, really quite by accident, we worked with the Caribbean Institute for Health Research and developed an online certificate in health research and epidemiology, which is, very appropriate for this time. But in terms of the wide range of courses that the university offers, we are being very innovative as we speak. So there are some courses and some programs, such as medicine, some of the sciences that have laboratories and so on, that are more challenging to put online and require a certain amount of practicum or, internship, hands-on.
Yes.
But the technology is actually catching up with us. Or we're catching up with the technology. So from medicine, for instance, there are ways that students can learn from a distance, because you can have a camera. Let's say that they're looking at a specimen. You can have a camera that is attached to your microscope that can broadcast to students, wherever they are, and can teach the students about that specimen. So we know that there will be some areas that will require maybe a little bit more investment as well, because that's important, because of the kind of equipment that we will need in order to make it fully online. But I think the goal is for the world to not say that everything has to be asynchronous. That's really the charm. In other words, that people will do it without any intervention from professors or anything like that. The idea is to make it flexible. So I prefer to use the term flexible learning, so that students can have the benefit of the best teachers, the master teacher, who can give the lecture online, but also have the ability to do their practicums, and have real life experiences, which you can't.
I'm keen on understanding or learning, if you will, the challenges you have with the members of the faculty, especially the older ones. How quickly do they take to the technology and to the platforms to navigate their way?
Well, I would never call it age related. It's a mindset related. Some young people are just as resistant as some of the older people. I think it is a matter of fear. And to be very honest, I think that we still, despite the fact that we have technology all around us, we still have quite a bit of technophobia. One of the things that I've noticed in the Caribbean, and certainly in Jamaica, we have about 1,000 of our students are in Jamaica. But I noticed that the uptake in online learning in Jamaica relative to population and demand is relatively low. And I think there are two reasons for that. One is I think we still do not see technology as a learning tool. It's still very much entertainment for most people. And also there are some practical considerations, such as cost for internet and internet access. But to get back to your question about how do our lecturers adapt and adopt the technology, I would say that it varies. All of our lecturers are very passionate about the learning experience of their students. And as with anything new, I think they need to be convinced that this is just as effective as that face-to-face interaction. Many years ago, I remember speaking to a lecturer in the law faculty, no longer with us, and he said to me, Dr. Longsworth, people cannot learn the law online because it is really something that you apprentice, and you have to see it in the classroom. You have to actually absorb it from the lecturer. And here we are, 10 years later, and thousands of people are doing law online, yet they still have to do a practical. So it is really just a matter of changing times, and some people, need to be more convinced than others. But I would tell you that the experience we've had over the last 3 weeks in training the lecturers in the face-to-face campuses has really shown us that our lecturers are ready, because their primary interest is the interest of the students. And even if they were fearful, they jumped into it, and I was so impressed with the enthusiasm overall.
So, Dr. Longsworth, vision with me. The future, the classroom of the future is here.
Yes.
It's going to be your home, your office, your backyard, is it?
Absolutely. But it is, as you say, it's already here. Isn't that what we see our children and our young people doing right now? And so it has been thrust upon us. But I was very pleased to see how, for instance, at the secondary and primary level, the Jamaican educational system was easy to move into that. However, one of the things that I would wish to point out, and it's not because I'm marketing, but because I have a genuine concern, is that there are two elements to successfully transitioning to this modality. The first is training of the teachers, because it is a different set of skills. I teach online, and it's a totally different set of skills to when I teach face-to-face.
Really?
Absolutely. The way you engage a student online, you do not do the same. You don't use the same techniques as you would do face-to-face. It's actually harder.
Which is harder?
Online. Online, because you remember, the person, especially if you're not doing let's say a video lecture, you're doing an asynchronous program, which is what I have taught, where the person comes on and let's say there's a discussion board and you're trying to engage them and to get them to think critically and so on. You have to really sit and craft the kinds of responses you have to the students, the kinds of questions that you have for them. Plus, in the online environment, the students are actually more demanding, because if they send you a message and you don't respond to them in an hour, they will say you're non-responsive. So I found it quite challenging, very exciting, and very challenging to teach online. So training of the teachers is very important at all levels in using educational technology. And in this regard, let me put my plug in from our programs in teaching and learning with emerging technologies, because we have developed that out of our expertise and our experience. The next thing is not to take it for granted that because our young people are always on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and whatever, that they really know how to use the technology to learn.
They don't necessarily know.
No, and so institutions have to also orient the students, because it is a whole different discipline. Because remember, the teacher is not there saying, read this, read that, do this, do that. You have to be very, very disciplined and self-motivated.
Indeed. And our Tablets in School program will have to take on a bit more than just handing out tablets to the students. We focused a bit, Dr. Longsworth, on the switching up, basically. You've said COVID-19 has basically accelerated the pace of the university's program to get more teaching and learning done online. So now that you are in the thrust of getting a number of your courses online, that focuses on the pedagogy. Yes, what about the assessment component now of the courses? How are we looking to move that online as well?
My goodness, you have got me there. I can see you've been reading up. The assessment is the challenge of online programs. And the truth is that even the online universities, such as, the big names like Phoenix and so on, even they have been challenged with the sort of ideal assessment modality for online. And many of them still do face-to-face assessment. There are two reasons for that. One, you have to ensure that it is the student that is really doing the work. And two, it is often difficult to really craft good true online assessment. Now, there are different ways, therefore, of doing what I call alternative assessment. We tend to say online assessment, and people think that means that there is some kind of computer spitting out questions at you, right? No, that's not really the way it works in this environment. What happens is that you are required then as a lecturer to really devise assessments that truly challenge and test the knowledge of the student. The issue of identification, for instance, there's software out there that can identify students. They do retinal identification, all kinds of things, right? But as you know, students can cheat. Let me not impugn students generally, but there can be cheating in any environment, but even face-to-face, right? So the challenge for the 21st century teacher is to devise assessments that can really pull on the student's knowledge and can truly test their knowledge and not just regurgitate what they have learned. Whether you're teaching online or you're teaching face-to-face, that is the challenge. Now, for us, as we've looked at these various tools, we will be piloting in the open campus a couple of the what we call online proctoring. So those are the tools where the student actually does an exam at a particular time, and you have a tool that will watch the student as an invigilator would. So, but those tend to be quite expensive, but we've gotten a little sort of window. You know, people are being very generous, I think, during the COVID outbreak, and we're going to test it out to see how it works with a small group. But for the most part, what will happen are what we call asynchronous type of assessment in this period. So it will be take-home exams. It will be a combination of take-home exams, of open book exams, of online quizzes, the real ones, you know, where they get, you know, the questions, the computer spits out questions at them, and they're timed. So, you know, it's very difficult for somebody to call a friend, for example, you know. So we are using a menu of options to ensure that we can test our students adequately. There are some areas, again, like medicine, that require a certain amount of practical testing. But again, I know that the medical faculty in the university are working on that, and there are ways to overcome that need to work on live patients.
Okay.
So we're doing quite a bit, and it's a very exciting time, really, if you are you know, into new technologies for learning.
Indeed.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Pro
you very
Vice
much.
Chancellor and Principal of the University of the West Indies Open Campus, Dr. Longsworth. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Longsworth.
Thank you. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Indeed.
Good. Same here.
Indeed.
Good. Same here.
Indeed.